everyone, hope you're having a good day. I don't know about you, but in summer the heat just seems to zap all of my energy. So I am quite behind on my jobs for the farm. So I thought that to hold myself accountable, I would film myself doing all the jobs. And I thought you also might like to see. So I've got loads of like cutting back, harvesting, deadheading sort of activity to do, and also just a crap ton of weeding and that kind of thing. So yeah, if you want to come along and help me do my jobs, that'll be what's in this video. Okay, first job on the list is dealing with these delphiniums. As you can see, I've let them go to seed, which sometimes I like to do just to help kind of rejuve the patch. But I am just going to come through and cut them back. They've got a bit of powdery mildew. They're looking a bit worse for wear. I found that if you cut delphiniums right back to the base, they usually reflush again. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to weed right away. I'll probably cut them back, and then I'll come through and weed later on. So I also need to weed these watermelons so they can get some sunlight through and stop attaching onto thistles and things. So I'll probably do that later on, but I'm just going to start with the cutting back. I find like doing a job like that just kind of gets me into the swing of things and gets me going. So that's what I'm going to start with. You'll also see that I'll just put all of the foliage into the pathways, and then at some stage we'll come through and mow that, and it'll just form part of a mulch on the pathway. I'm trying to be better about collecting stuff to go in my compost over there, but because these have got powdery mildew, I don't really want to put that into my compost, so these will just go straight in the pathways and get mowed in. I think if you're being extra good, you'd probably collect all the foliage and then burn it or something like that, but I'm not going to do that today, so we'll just see how this goes. I think you normally because delphiniums don't really like it hot and dry and that kind of thing. I think that's partially why they're struggling here. So typically if plants aren't feeling that good, they start to get a little bit of disease. So once we put a bit more effort into helping them feel better, hopefully we'll prevent some of that powdery mildew. Okay, I've cut them all back, as you can see. Good to get that job done, and I think what I'm going to do is actually come through and weed. So I'll start with getting the thistles out first. If I've let them get this big, I usually have to put on some rose pruning gloves or something to have a go at them. So yeah, I'll get into that. Usually when I'm out here, I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks, and I've started listening to an audiobook called The Dose Effect, which is I think they call it biohacking, which is basically how do you hack the release of certain hormones, like dopamine, for example. And I'm up to the dopamine bit, and so apparently we get dopamine by working hard at something and then achieving it. So with that in mind, I'm going to finish the job, and then hopefully I'll feel much more motivated to carry on because of the extra dopamine. Okay, I did a slight detour. So I've done all the thistles in the delphinium bed, but then also I went and did about 5 or 6 other beds that were particularly bad. So just since I had all the gloves on, so that was good. Still got a few, like this bed here, for some reason has been particularly bad. I came through not that long ago and pulled them out, but sometimes if you don't get all the root out with these thistles, they just come right back. So yeah, anyway, that job's done. I get back to weeding the delphiniums. Okay, delphiniums are weeded. You can see that there. It's hot out here, so I'm gonna go get some lunch. It's 2 o'clock. And then at some stage I've come through and weed the watermelon at the end of that row. I might think about doing something inside while it's still really hot. And then I think I'll probably get to harvesting, and I also really want to sort out my poor tomatoes, which are just sort of flopping all over the place and need staking and some of the leaves removed and that sort of thing. Okay, I forgot to film this, but it wasn't overly interesting anyway. Just weeding the watermelon. It was a bit of a task because of the vines, and I didn't want to snap any of the vines, but I think we've kind of done as good as we're going to get here. I just need to come through and mow on the sides here, because no doubt these will start romping back out again. Not an ideal thing to put in sort of a system like this, really. I don't know if you can see that, but like our pumpkin patch, where it can spread out, but we don't have an area for them, so that's that. Now we're off to sort out the tomatoes. Okay, so these are tomatoes. I haven't really done anything with them except plant and put a couple of strings up, but they've kind of flopped over and da-da-da. So I'm going to come through and put a rope on the top, and then I'm going to take some tie, like some soft tie, and just try and tie them up, and then decide what I do about removing any additional suckers and leaves and that kind of thing. I also need to harvest these beans that we've got alongside them, because I can imagine that they're probably a bit stringy. So yep, so I'm going to get after that. Everyone, it's the next day, but I did do something with the tomatoes last night. I can't find I have a soft fabric tie that I use to do stuff like this, and I couldn't find it, so I've had to use a string, which is not as good for the plants and whatnot, but hopefully it does the job. It's a bit rough because some of them had rooted into the ground from their stems and things. So anyway, I've done what I can. It's meant to rain a lot at the end of the week, so hopefully that doesn't cause too many issues. But so that's done. Now I'm going to get to watering those delphiniums. And yeah, just giving everything a good drink. We're meant to get some really high temps this week, and then all the rain. So yeah, could be another wild week for our summer. So the irrigation system that we have is broke down, so I just had to hand water kind of most of that area, which is a bit of a pain. And I don't tend to like to use this sprinkler that much because it is a bit of a waste of water. You end up watering a lot of the pathways and stuff, but needs must, so I'll just try not to have it on for too long and just make sure I'm moving it around, etc. And I'm trying to water what we have to water, sort of thing. Isn't that always the way though? Things break down when you need them the most. Like the irrigation always breaks down in the summer, and the other week we had all 3 of our mowers break down, and one's now broken again. So I think we're in for a new mower is what I think. But yeah, we've got a push mower, a ride-on mower, and my parents have a thing you tow along behind the quad bike called a tow and mow. They all broke down at the same time, which is great. As you can see, we desperately need to mow inside the patch. But yeah, our mower's broken again and run out of part, and then they had to import a part from another country and all the things. But I think we're going to treat ourselves to a new mower soon. So one of the tasks that I'm going to do today is doing a foliar spray for our plants. So I try and do this weekly. If not every week, I'll do it every 2 weeks when plants are sort of actively growing. Actually, I do it in the winter sometimes too, but I put on this product called Superzyme. So it's got lots of good microbes, and then I also add in like an organic foliar feed as well, just to keep the things ticking along. Yeah, what's it called? It's a beneficial inoculant, which contains beneficial fungi and bacteria that enhance soil life. Trying to figure out what actually is in it. Oh, it's gonna take too long to read. I think it's like a trichoderma, I think, and like a lactobacillus type organisms. But what you have to do to spray it is you have to activate it in some water a few hours before spraying. So I've just done that now, and then we'll apply that later on. Okay, next thing on the list is that got some plugs arriving in a couple of weeks, maybe even a week actually, and they're all going to be planted under this weed mat. But I planted a Lacewphacelia seed crop, that stuff, and as you can see that's a pathway, and so it's like just come up all on the pathway. So I think what I'm going to need to do is expose this bed, water it, germinate the seeds, and then hoe them out before I plant, just so I don't end up with a massive like weed problem. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do now. Great, that job is done. I don't know how well it's going to work because there's still quite a bit of like seed heady type stuff here, so I might have a bit of a problem. I think I might actually rake the residue off into the path, and I've just squashed down the plants in the path to terminate them, and that will kind of stop more weeds from coming up. But yeah, I might actually rake this off into the pathway so I can make sure that we're not dealing with a weedy mess. Yeah, and then I actually have just put this next to it because I think I might create another bed where I'm going to grow some like wheat and possibly sweet corn on this row to help buffer this area from the wind. Cool, here we go. A little bit of raking. So yeah, I'll come through and water this in later on when it's not so hot. And yeah, we'll go from there. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. I'm just about to get that spraying done now that we're like nice and cool and there's no wind. Oh my gosh, amazing. But yeah, thanks for coming along and helping me stay accountable for my jobs. I've got a bit of a work plan in mind for the next couple of weeks to try and close out the season strong, so I'm going to get on to that.